Hey everyone, this is Jason from the AtlanticSC podcast. Thanks for tuning in to our episode on Jack Reacher Never Go Back. I just wanted to mention that because of audio issues, there won't be a What Did You Watch This Week segment. We felt better to scrap the segment instead of punishing your ears with can-like vocals and weird clicks. The segment will be back on our Doctor Strange episode scheduled for November 17th. Thanks for your understanding, and now, AtlanticSC's discussion of Jack Reacher Never Go Back.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
Sound good? Yes, sir!
I know who I am!
Did IQs just drop shot?
That could have been.
I have a plan.
I like this shit.
You know, it's exciting.
Dance off, bro.
It is your
Me and you.
Welcome to the Atlantic Screen Connection podcast.
Let the games begin.
Hello and welcome to Atlantic Screen Connection podcast with Jason and Lee. This is episode 11. I hope you guys didn't miss us too much during the week we were gone. But if you did, well, you guys saw it. Last Thursday I posted the playlist. A lot of you responded and asked. Actually, they were surprised. You're surprised that you guys hadn't caught a couple of episodes. And I'm really glad that you guys tuned into a couple of our older episodes. So that way, when you get to this one, our episode on Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, you guys will be well rested just as we are. So, Lee, how have you been, dear sir?
I've been great, man. Obviously, we took that week off, and in that time, me and the fiance, we went to Berlin for a couple of days to sort of rejuvenate ourselves and have a little holiday, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I've never been to Berlin. Apparently, it's a really beautiful place.
Gorgeous, yeah. It's one of those like architecturally astounding cities. You know, it's a gorgeous place. If you're thinking about European destinations, I mean, there's one.
Oh, there's a bunch of places I want to visit in Europe. I have to head to France to see my best friend over there, and obviously, I'd love to be able to record a show with you in Ireland.
Oh yeah,
which
that'd
would
be
be
awesome.
fantastic. That would be great, you know. And I'd love to visit Belfast. I'm actually planning. I don't know. I was supposed to do this with my father when he turned 60. Sadly, we haven't had the chance to do it yet. But I wanted to go watch the Isle of Man TT, the motorcycle race that they have.
Oh, right.
And that's it, because I'm a huge racing fan, which is. I think I should start talking about
Yeah,
my Formula One stuff, so that when the guys from In Session start listening, they'll fast forward through this the same way I fast forward
for their football talk. Exactly.
That no offense meant, guys. But that's it. So anyway, what I'm going to do for next time, because it's the Mexican Grand Prix this weekend, I can't give you a lap-by-lap analysis, but I should probably try to detail that for the next podcast.
I know fucking nothing about motorcycle racing, so I mean, I could learn something. I'm happy to learn.
Oh, yeah, but I don't
individual.
watch just the motorcycle race. Mostly the cars.
Oh,
I go to the Grand Prix in Montreal.
TT's a motorbike race, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God.
But that's it, because I like the motorbike race. But the TT over in the Isle of Man, you know, that looks like a brilliant place. These guys are nuts.
Yeah.
They're just crazy. I told my father we have to see this eventually, and we're planning on heading over there eventually.
Definitely, you have to.
check
That'd
that
be
out.
super cool. So anyway, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. Like I said, I'm well rested. For all the listeners that are out there right now, I want to tell you guys that I am a giant pussy when it comes to watching horror films.
We detailed this a couple of times on the show. We've approached the subject that you can't watch any zombie films.
The thing is that I want my girlfriend loves that stuff.
Right.
I don't know what she gets out of it. Anyway, and so she's like, "Oh, let's watch a horror film tonight." I was like, "No, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I don't put myself in that situation." However, in order to, I don't know, as a sign of affection or something like that, I noticed a tweet from Sarah Buttery, who's over in the UK. I think she's from the UK, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And so she writes a lot. She blogs a lot about movies and stuff like that. Great, fun woman to interact with on Twitter. But she has the same affliction I have for horror films, where she can't stomach them, and her boyfriend loves them.
Wow, like an inverse.
So it's in reverse.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so she was putting together a compilation of horror films where she wanted to do like 100-word reviews on horror films for wimps. And so I basically tweeted her and I said, I want in on this as a sign of affection for my girlfriend. I said, listen, I'm going to put myself in this position. I'll watch the classic horror films. And I hope that she's going to be okay with that. And so that's it. By the time you guys hear this again, she probably posted this on Monday. And I have a couple of reviews in there. I wanted to write one for Halloween, which I watched. I wanted to write a couple for Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, which I watched, 28 Days Later, which I watched. Pan's Labyrinth was on the list, and so was Coraline, but I mean, those movies have never really affected me. I thought they were great. Event Horizon was there, amongst a bunch of others. And so, yeah, I basically put myself through a little bit of boot camp and watching classic horror films. So that was kind of cool. I have 7 essays left to correct in my whole big batch. But 7 is good. I can see the finish line before I realize that the race isn't over and the rest of the semester is coming up too.
Basically, this is the part, the pit stop, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And just gearing up for Halloween. My daughter, I'm surprising her. She wanted to go as Ray for Halloween, but she's going to go crazy when she sees the costume.
Super cool.
And so I guess that's about it. I mean, I loved the interaction I had on Twitter this week, especially with Liam Underwood. It was absolutely marvelous. And I want to tell him, thank you for telling me that Interstellar is dull, because it kind of brought back the feeling that I had when I was watching the movie, but not in terms of dullness, but exact opposite. And I had a conversation with my girlfriend who was referencing John Lennon at one point, and I was like, oh. And so the conversation I had with you, Liam, my girlfriend, kind of like rubbed the Vaseline out of my eyes, and now I can actually finish my analysis on Interstellar.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking forward to going on that. It was wonderful. I woke up this morning, it was 3 a.m. when I had the idea, like the missing cipher, because I've been working on this essay for about 1.5 years now.
Yeah.
And it was great. I was like, yippee-doo! I finally
brilliant.
found the missing link.
Great.
So thank you, Liam.
All you need is the dispassionate cry of the public and our affectionate friends on Twitter, and finally the mojo has returned.
And that's about it.
Cool. Shall we?
Yeah, shall we?
What the hell happened here? There's a fight. One guy took them all down with his bare hands. He's still in there.
Turn around, mister. Let me see your hands. Slowly.
Aggravated assault is a felony in this state, Mr. Reacher. Process him and get him to county.
2 things are gonna happen in the next 90 seconds.
Excuse me?
First, that phone over there is gonna ring. Second, you're gonna be wearing these cuffs on your way to prison.
Well, that is one magnificent prophecy, Mr. Reacher.
Just gonna keep on ringing.
Thanks for tipping us off to that sheriff.
When are you coming to D.C.?
I move around a lot.
You're a legend. Folks wonder why you left. Purple Heart, Silver Star. There's this big dent in the desk. People say you made it with someone's head.
Jack Reacher for Major Turner.
Major Turner's been arrested.
On what charge?
Espionage.
He's been set up. How much does Reacher know?
How's it going?
I don't like being followed.
You think you're invulnerable.
That's right. Maybe I rip your arm off and beat you to death with it. I'm sorry about this. Reacher? You're here to kill you.
My men were shot by one of our own. This is bigger than I imagined. You ever lose anyone on your watch, Reacher?
You're a dead man. You think you're above the law. But I'm not the law. So you should start running, because I'm going to start hunting. And when I find you, I'm going to kill you all. It's a haircut. All you guys go to the same barber?
All right, so welcome back to the feature film discussion on Jack Reacher, Never Go Back. We hope that you guys enjoyed the trailer. And so I don't know. Where do you want to start, Lee? Do you want us to give a breakdown?
Yeah, 2 things are going to happen. We're going to talk about Jack Reacher.
Okay.
And we're going to have fun. There you go.
Yes, we are. We're definitely going to have fucking fun. I had fun. That's the way we're going to start it. So let's just break down what the plot is. The plot is Jack Reacher gets called into town. Some shit happens with Coldy Smulders. He might have a daughter. He beats the shit out of a guy. Everyone lives happily ever after, except for the guy he beat the shit out of. That's Jack Reacher, Never Go Back.
If you think that is not a good enough plot to watch, Fair enough. That's a fair criticism.
Fine. It stars Tom Cruise, Colby Smulders, Dakota Yarish. It's directed by Edward Zwick.
Danica
Zwick.
Yarish.
Oh, Danica. Sorry. You know what she reminds me of? She reminds me of a young, Letitia Casta.
Fair enough.
She looks like a very young Letitia Casta. Beautiful looking girl. And so that's it. It also stars T-Bag from Prison Break. And some random guy I've never seen, and I probably will not see again.
Oh, yeah.
He was the bad guy, random dude.
Wikipedia told me his name was The Hunter. That's news to me, man.
His name is The Hunter?
That's what his character name was. It was they never called him anything, so I just assumed either I missed it or he was just not interesting enough to have a character name. Turns out I was right.
So, yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. He's just random hunter dude.
Yeah.
And I want to mention just one thing to anybody who's listening, and I know you're not the Hollywood people out there. Stop casting models as henchmen. They're not believable. Okay? You just have these hunky guys in the background that look like Chris Hemsworth, and you're like, what the fuck? Go model your underpants, dude. Send me a real henchman. The guys that were like in Predator back in the day with Schwarzenegger. Guys that are believable.
Yeah,
get Jesse Ventura. He's probably doing nothing.
They're like the strippers from Arrested Development.
There you go, exactly. Yeah. And you're like,
and then you know what, they're just going to tear off their henchman clothes and do a dance.
Yeah, exactly. They're just going to start like magic miking in the middle of a fucking movie. Anyway,
so that's the plot, that's the characters. Jason, what did you think of Jack Reacher in general?
I needed this film to be exactly what it was.
You needed it. You needed it to
be. I needed it to be exactly what it was. It was uncomplicated. It was just an easy watch. I actually liked it better than Jason Bourne that came out earlier this year.
I agree.
And I don't understand what the critics were expecting. This is just a straight up action movie and it has a guy that's basically in a Western who doesn't know about it. He's a guy who walks into town, some shit happens to him, he saves the day and walks back out of town.
Yeah.
It was a basic plot of a Western. Yeah. Classic, yeah.
And textbook.
After the weeks that I had spent watching, correcting my essays, watching all of the movies that I'd watched, just dealing with a bunch of what real life was supposed to be, when I walked out of Never Look Back, I felt genuinely satisfied. I was like, this is the kind of movie I can put on and as a guilty pleasure and enjoy myself.
Absolutely.
It took me away from what my real life was going on.
And that's what as many people say, that's what cinema's about, escapism.
Exactly.
Escapism is
really
something
fun
cinema
movie.
does great. And that's why so many people respect it for that and use it for that, to get away from their daily lives. And Jack Reacher is a prototypical, perfect example of just sheer, straightforward escapism. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I feel as though this one was an action comedy.
Oh, yeah.
/ buddy cop movie with like tidbits of the Western in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it was kind of fun. And I just have to put out there that the quote that sold me on the movie is brilliant. I have to try to plug this into many conversations from now on. And it's never underestimate the charm of a seedy motel.
Yeah.
Reacher says that at one point because he's having a conversation with Colby Smulders, and they're talking about a potential date they might have gone on, and where are you going to be next? He says
it's a cute moment,
someplace, and she says like some seedy motel, and he says never underestimate the charm of a seedy motel. And you know what? That's exactly how I feel about this fucking movie. That's exactly what typifies this movie. This is an exemplary line.
It's the surprising quality of a seedy motel. That is exactly what this film feels like.
Exactly. It's nothing grandiose.
It doesn't pretend to be.
But it's not a piece of shit. Exactly. It's one of those places where you stop by the road for one evening and then you fucking leave. And that's it. I felt that quote encapsulated the film, and it was fun. It was really fun. It felt cheap. It felt paint by numbers, but it was done well in my opinion. I didn't feel the director at all in there, and I think that was great. I didn't need it to be an over.
It didn't need to be an auteur's vision. you know?
Exactly. No, it was, like I said, paint by numbers. But sometimes I think that that's interesting. I'm glad that Zwick put the camera down compared to what Greengrass does, where you're just trying to figure out where the fuck Bourne is in the frame most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good comparison to make, because Bourne, it's the thinking man's straightforward action film, you know, like, and it's fine. It's good at what it does. I don't get what Greengrass really offers to that in a lot of the senses. A lot of people really were excited about what he did this year with the chase through Greece. I didn't get it. It didn't impress me at all. I thought it was impossible to follow.
Agree. Thought it was okay, but I mean, to me, the route was already traced out. I knew exactly how it was going to end, so to me there was no suspense.
Yeah. So then why?
I was watching it going like, whatever.
That attempt to stretch and to try to make more of something that is straightforward, that just kind of speaks more to the desperation of the filmmakers to make something else rather than the project they have at hand, you know? Yeah. And that's what you could say about Jack Reacher, is that the people who wanted to make Jack Reacher wanted to make Jack Reacher, you know?
Yes, they definitely did. They didn't wait for the right circumstances. They did this in an incredibly low budget. They didn't spend too much on advertising or anything.
Yeah, incredibly low budget for a Tom Cruise film, put it that way.
Exactly, but I mean, this is not necessarily what they'd call a passion project, and a lot of people have been lumping this into cashing a paycheck or whatnot. And I mean, listen, cashing a paycheck, isn't that what we do at our jobs too? Isn't Tom Cruise's job to be an actor?
Yeah.
And if he's going to be an actor, he's a producer now as well. He makes movies. That's his fucking job.
Put it this way, nobody shits on Jackie Chan for his latest stunt-filled crap fest. You know, like, there's another... you know, like, they're kind of copy-paste mostly the same film with a different theme or setting. Nobody's got to give Jackie Chan shit. Yeah. Jackie Chan makes good, easy, accessible films for people to enjoy. Same with Tom Cruise. He's allowed to take the day off.
Yeah, but I don't feel like he was taking the day off in this one. We'll get that a little bit later in the show, because I felt a little bit strange near the end of the movie in a good way, but sad way at the same time. I want to take you up on what you just said with regards to the Bourne movies. You say that they're a thinking man's action film?
Sure.
I don't want to disagree with you, but I think they're more wannabe thinking man's action films.
Well,
I have yet to watch an action film. You know, how can I put it? I don't know if I have Bourne fatigue, but when I rewatch...
That word fatigue is going around much too much these days.
Yeah, I'm very fatigued. It's just like, I'm like that guy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest who's just saying like oh, I'm so tired, I'm tired, I can't get up, I'm tired. But Bourne, to me, when I was watching them, even when they came out in the day, and I was in college when these movies came out, I understood what they meant at that moment in time.
Sure.
When I rewatch them, they feel dated.
Fair enough.
The action seems silly. And Matt Damon, I'm sorry to say this, but he's just not believable as an actor. I've never really felt that his performances...
You've said this to me countless times. I just can't agree.
It's recorded now. You can't agree? Fine, that's okay.
I enjoy Matt Damon.
You're allowed. You're allowed. No, I just can't get into it. To me, he's just a really in shape DiCaprio, where I'm watching him and I'm like, you're just Matt Damon.
Fair enough.
You're not. I can't believe any of the characters he plays, because to me, he's just this good-looking guy from Boston who happens to be a movie maker. He's a smart man. I am not taking that away from him. He's a smart man. I would love to see what Matt Damon can write, because he hasn't written shit since Good Will Hunting, and that was a great script. And that's what he got his Oscar for, not for acting. He was nominated a couple of times, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
I really feel like, you know, when I'm watching an action movie and I want to see a movie star, Tom Cruise is the guy I want to see.
I agree. When it comes to action, definitely, I'll pick Tom Cruise over Matt Damon any day. The guy just, he brings energy to his movies that I don't think anybody can capture. He is a wholeheartedly avid fan of the work he does. And you can tell in every performance he gives. It doesn't matter. Like, you're not going to say he brings the most diverse performances each time, or, you know, but there's a little something different. He does think about what he's doing in each one, and he does genuinely pour his heart into it. You could tell he pours his heart into these films. It reads a lot better when you go into these experiences. You want to be a part of you want to be in the hands of people who actually give a shit about the crap they're feeding you.
Well, that's the thing. And I mean, I believe that Tom Cruise is a much more competent actor, because I've seen him act.
Yeah.
He was in Eyes Wide Shut, and you were like, fuck, this was an amazing performance.
Yeah.
When you see him in Magnolia, he is astounding. He is out of his element in that, and you're like, Jesus, this is brilliant. However, when I watch Matt Damon and I see him lose his mind, all I see is Will Hunting punching a wall.
Sure.
His intonation is exactly the same. Even in Bourne, I don't know who I am. And he's the same head motions, the same shoulder motions. His body language doesn't change from movie to movie. And to me, that is very, very unappealing when I can notice that the actor's acting. Tom Cruise, I'm not under the impression he's acting. I'm under the impression he's in the goddamn movie. If he's Tom Cruise, fine.
It's a Tom Cruise film, we don't throw that term around lightly. He is the center point of the movie. His performances and what he does in terms of portraying action on camera. He's just a master of it.
No, his intensity is very palpable in everything he does. I mean, you're watching a Mission Impossible film, you can understand who Ethan Hunt is. You're watching Jack Reacher, and there is that nuance that's there. Even when you're watching movies like The Edge of Tomorrow or even Oblivion that Cruise has been in recently. And my personal favorite, I'll talk about War of the Worlds. I mean, a lot of people say that it's one of Spielberg's weakest movies, and I disagree. It's one of Spielberg's best. And the performance that Tom Cruise delivers in that movie is fucking amazing. He's brilliant in that. And that's it. I just love the fact that this guy is a movie star. And I mean that with capital fucking bold letters. Reacher is definitely one that I'll be revisiting. I enjoyed the first movie. I thought it was fun. Werner Herzog was insane in the fucking picture. Jai Courtney, probably a performance that I thought was a little heavy-handed, but he did what he had to do. He was just the underpants model / killer that he was supposed to be. And Jack Reacher...
that these films are now famous for.
But I loved seeing Jack Reacher beat the shit out of him. I was like, finally, someone is going to shut him up. And that's it. The same thing that happens in this movie to what we'll call the Hunter, when Jack Reacher beats the shit out of him.
But that's genuinely, I'm not making that is his cast name. That's his actual character name.
And so that's it. I don't think that anything was done lazily. Like I said, paint by numbers done well is good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think people undersell the difficulty in mass-produced action movies, and the formula. As easy as maybe the superhero films have made it look, it's not easy. It's certainly hard to maintain consistent interest and quality in something that has been done a million times. And Jack Reacher just manages to keep the bar steady. It doesn't raise it, it doesn't lower it. And that's an impressive feat in itself, because we have a pretty fucking high bar when you think about all the great action films that came out in our, relatively brief history of cinema.
Right.
So... it's absolutely fine that a film can come in with just the expectation of showing up and doing its job. Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, does that. And I don't think we can take that away from him.
No, exactly. I feel exactly the same. When I sat down to watch the movie, I had no expectations. All I knew is that I was happy there was a new Jack Reacher movie because I had enjoyed the first one. However, I can understand that people who didn't enjoy the first one might not necessarily like this one. That I get.
Sure.
But I was already on board for a sequel. I will say this, though. This feels like it should have been the third movie in the franchise.
I was watching a Tom Cruise interview today, and apparently this is like the 18th book in the series, which is is maddening. Just like it did feel like a serial film, as in like it felt like it was just one of a number. Absolutely, it felt like the James Bond films feel. Like they could happen in any place and any time. You can interchange them. Nothing affects the other.
Well, yeah.
It was a standalone adventure, and
I think it's great because you brought up in your review like that Danica Yarish was doing her best to portray Edward Furlong from Terminator 2. And you're absolutely right. I felt that this movie, when we did our episode on Terminator 2, we were talking about how the plot had developed, and this Jack Reacher feels like it's a little bit like Terminator 2, right? Where you'll have like the Jack Reacher, who is the Terminator. He comes back, he goes to save Colby Smulders the same way as they go.
He's he's the cold father we could never have.
Exactly.
He's not good at his job. Right? He was never made to be the dad. And just like the Terminator, I had these thoughts in the theater exactly the same. I just like, she is channeling Furlong like nothing else, and do you know what? This speaks to a higher film.
Exactly. Like even the Hunter felt like the T-1000 that never really wanted to stop back.
Right?
Even
Yeah.
certain shots that Zwick was using.
It's a poor man's remake of Terminator 2. It's really impressive.
That shot of the feet, which was interesting at one point, where Zwick just points the camera down and you see his feet come into frame where he's going to check the cellular phone that Jack Reacher threw out the window.
Yeah.
I was like, I just wanted to hear the dun.
Yeah,
that's just the fucking thing, and it just you're like, oh, okay, cool, it's the Terminator.
For those who probably haven't seen it, a lot of the film with the I suppose main villain, the Hunter character, what he does is he basically spends a lot of time picking up the pieces of the main characters as they're on the run from both the military and this sort of seedy group of like backstabby assassin guys, like businessmen, and this Hunter guy, we get scene after scene of him sort of showing up just a minute too late and picking up the pieces and sort of dusting them and going, where did they go? I know, New Orleans, of course. It's like, and you're yes, if you think about it, how the fuck did he work that out? But at the same time, it was fun. I was enjoying it. It is kind of like a comedy, as you were saying. And in a very similar way to Terminator 2, it doesn't take itself so seriously. And that's what I appreciate about it.
That's great. Before we continue into positives, I want to get to the negative aspects of the movie. And do you have a few before I get into mine?
Well, I mean, as there's Bauer, one obvious main one. I guess you could generally say that the stuff you would expect to say, the plot is flimsy, the conspiracy plot that I really enjoyed at the very start of the film, where the military kind of fucks over the two characters of Turner and Reacher. Yeah. I was actually on board for that plot. I thought it was simple. I thought it was efficient, and to see Jack Reacher in the first 15-20 minutes thrown into prison and having to work out how the fuck's he going to get out of this one. Straightforward wise, I was thinking, this is actually a pretty solid starting spot for a real action film.
Absolutely.
And I kind of wanted to see how he'd unravel that mystery. But the film, unfortunately, drops that, for the most part, for a sort of on-the-run survivor story kind of thing. Yeah. And I guess it's not a bad story in itself, but it was less gripping to me. I felt like I was more on board with the military conspiracy side of things. I wanted to see a little more of that, and we didn't get... It became far clearly more black and white than that. And which is fine, and it served itself well, but also there's a sort of a right turn into where they get this informant kind of character, this kind of junkie guy. I thought the film for about 15-20 minutes hit a dead halt. Yeah, I think the film hit a dead halt at that point. I just didn't care about the character. I didn't know how we got there. I didn't feel we accurately explained why we were looking for this guy. It was just sort of briefly brought up and then we just appeared. And that was, you could say what you want about straightforward action being straightforward action, but I genuinely did kind of want to follow the story a little more than that, and it kind of lost me at that part a tiny bit, but it brings it back almost instantly. The Hunter guy shows up and shit kind of picks up the pace again for a final set piece after that. So, each negative is levied with a positive to an extent. I was going to say, but the one main negative that kind of chips away at me is the Samantha character.
Okay.
I wanted to like what they were doing. Yeah, I got what I was trying to do, the father we can't be story, and there are moments of that kind of reflect well on Reacher's personality, that we really do glean some insights into just how detached and alone this character is, right? And how jaded and how unprepared he is to take on normal aspects of life. There is some good parts in it, but this character, Samantha, not so much the performance. The performance is all kind of shaky and overreacty as it is.
It's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. Yeah,
it's a bit much. I think.
It gets better as the movie goes along, but
I don't really. It's kind of an over the top film in itself, anyway. So I don't really mind that so much. It was how the character forced herself into scenarios that, intentionally added, quote unquote, added drama to the story. She gets herself caught. She alerts the fucking assassins to the hotel she's hanging out in. Shit. That is lazy screenwriting contrivances 101, and it bothers me when a screenwriter, because the thing is, they have such a good thing going. Right. Nothing felt contrived up to those points. in the
Right.
story, and nothing felt like it needed more drama. It felt like we had plenty to work with, and then for some reason the screenwriters just get bored, and they for 5-10 minutes at a time, maybe 2-3 times, they just decide, let's have these guys show up for no reason, or let's have her walk out there and there'd be a little scuffle between her and Jack Reacher, and they have a little argument. And I think there were just so many different ways that could have been done. And I feel that all they did was kind of use this character like a plot contrivance machine. And that unfortunately undersells a lot of the aspects that were interesting about the relationship they were trying to explore.
Right.
That bothered me a little, because not that I was going to this to see, a good father-daughter, not odd family story, but I they had something there, and I definitely wanted to see what they were going to do with it, but I feel that they cheapened out a number of times, and that was unfortunate to me.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like it felt like an episode of 24, right?
Yeah, unbelievably so.
And especially in season 1, because like Samantha essentially reminded me of Kim Bauer with how these weird logical jumps she had, where she was like, I'm going to do this, it feels right. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing? But I think
exactly.
That she was there for us to get
Same
mad
problem.
at her.
Yeah, it's the same problem. The screenwriter's just like, and the people will react and they'll say, oh God, what's she doing in this particular scene? But then Jack will come in and make things right,
Exactly, and so I think she provoked the necessary reactions that the audience want to have in that specific moment, or in those specific moments, rather. She wasn't there to make logical decisions. She's young. She doesn't know better, and I'm not trying to defend her because, like we said, the performance is choppy.
Sure.
Where at the beginning, she has all these facial twitches and weird body language and all that. When it slowly shifts throughout the movie, towards the end, she does get better, in my opinion, except for that fucking scene on the roof where I was like, come on, that's lazy screenwriting, in my opinion. That didn't feel earned at all, especially when she says no. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, to explain the scene. The assassin eventually catches her and hangs her off the building and says basically to Jack,
if you kill me, she falls.
Kill me, she falls. And Jack pleads, say like, take me, not her. Put her down. And
she blurts out a no. No! And you're like, well, first of all, you guys haven't really developed that type of relationship yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's not earned at all.
Right? And then Colby Smulders, she had Turner had taught Samantha something during the movie and how to disarm a dude or get out of a situation where she's being held hostage, which she uses
to an astounding effect.
To this trained fucking assassin who would be normally like, sorry, baby, but that's not going to work.
Good try.
Exactly.
You know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of Miss Congeniality. Did you ever see it?
I haven't watched that in years.
Oh my god, I've seen it like a million fucking times. But yeah, Sandra Bullock teaches the girls how to defend themselves. The quick step and how to disarm a guy or a mugger. It reminded me of that scene. But you know what was good about that was that film plays to a build up. It's a callback joke. It builds to. And it works in the moment, and it works. It's perfect for the setting. It was it felt like that, except it wasn't funny. There was no joke.
Well, see, had they played it funny, had Samantha had confidence that Reacher had this under control, I think it would have played much better.
Yeah.
The fact that she's just there and she was like, shoot him. And he was like, no, I can't do that. Shoot him, which is provoking Jack. And like the fucking assassin's just like, what the fuck? Shut the fuck up. And he becomes distracted.
What's weird, that would have been in character as well. That kind of, because she's
the
so...
defiance that she has in the beginning of the movie.
Exactly, and that she's so volatile in most of her scenes. That kind of works. That would have been a really great scene. That would have been a really fun thing to see. But then, of course, we're going, some ideas are a little too much of an expectation for this movie,
Yeah, that's it. So, and plus, it would have been jarring with the end fight, the ending fight, which I loved.
Again, spoiler, but it's basically a fight where Jack Reacher breaks all the bones in a guy's body and then kills him.
It's exactly what it is, but I like how Zwick shot it.
Yeah.
At one point, how, this is going to sound corny, but dirt settles on the floor, right? And this is a dirty fight. These people aren't pulling punches or anything like that. And these are two trained assassins who know how to hit, where to hit, and what kind of damage it's going to inflict on the person.
Sure.
And so when Zwick puts the camera down and you see them start fighting their way up, it was just really interesting to see how it didn't feel like it was choreographed. It
Yeah.
felt natural, and I appreciated that because most of the time when you're watching like movies, especially like the only one that comes to mind right now is the sequence at the end of Captain America Civil War where Bucky and Cap are fighting Iron Man, you feel that that's rehearsed.
Yeah, it's a dance sequence, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But it's nice. I mean, I'm not going to shit on it. I thought it was really interesting to see that type of fight. I was like,
choreography.
wow. Exactly. But in this one, you're like, well, Jesus, these guys are really going at it.
You can tell it's like trained stuntmen, just good at their job, and they let the natural talent of the actors take hold.
Yeah.
You know.
And I felt that Zwick actually let the scene breathe a little bit. You know, he just pulls a little bit back and he lets you kind of appreciate that. Then he goes in for medium shots. He goes out not necessarily to establishing shots, but just like, we'll say just a wide shot just for the audience to get a picture of where these people are. But he wants to keep them in the action at a distance so that you get a feel for the crushing of those bones.
Yeah.
And you're like, and I feel it works. I think Zwick did a great job on directing that sequence.
Definitely. Although I will say, there's this kind of thing. Throughout the film, I forgot about it. It is a negative. I had this expectation, and it was mostly on my side, but it was something I wanted to happen. I wanted this story to be more about Turner, Kobe Smolder's character.
Okay.
Because this had happened to her, and it revolved around her. I felt that Jack Reacher was a lot like Mad Max in this case, and she was supposed to be our Furiosa, and she was supposed to really take charge of the film by the end. And by the end, when it comes down to the hunter, it should have been her fucking right to kill the guy. You know, this guy is just indicative of the horrors she has been put through just for being on the wrong side of a terrible, terrible deal. And I wanted this fight scene to happen, but at the same time, I wanted Kobe to just kind of shoot him from above and rob the kill from Jack in the last second, because I felt it was more hers to have, you know, for her character. I wanted her to have something closer to an arc, where in this case she doesn't really have one. The two fights she's in, one she fights this hunter guy before and gets the shit kicked out of her, and there's no redemption to that. She just gets the shit kicked out of her. This you know, trained army fighter, you know, who holds her own in every other scene, gets, you know, put down, which is really, you know, I really wanted something more from that. And I thought this would have been a cool way to do it if she jumped into the fight or something. On the other side of that, she does have another fight where she just about overpowers some nameless henchman. You know, I felt like this story had more to offer regarding her, because she's a central part of the plot, and she is along the journey from start to finish. And the plot never gives her the opportunity to really make anything of the performance. And that's a shame, because I really liked the character. I liked her sense of humor. I liked her straightforward mannerisms. I liked that she was genuinely military, you know, that she was, you know, it was all work to her. That was cool. I think we don't see enough kind of characters like that, and I really wanted more from the action on her half and not more of the investigative side of the film. And so that was just one thing I thought, and I guess it's a little much to ask in my straightforward, you know, Father's Day DVD action film, you know, but at the same time, I feel that there was groundwork there to take that to a better direction. It lays the ground for something like that, and I was a bit disappointed by it.
Right. You know what? I can't disagree with that. You've raised a really good point. I hadn't seen it that way. And you're right, the payoff for Turner is it kind of leaves you a little bit.
She gets her life back, but it's all thanks to Jack, you know. It's barely anything to do with her, which is a bit shit.
I think the only way that I could probably defend the way that the movie goes is just when the military officer that was kind of hired to hire the hunter says to him, "Don't make this a competition," and he says he does. So I mean, the hunter does make it personal with Jack. So
with Jack, yeah, I agree. They do.
So that was the only
some sort of reason for them to fight.
Exactly.
You
so,
know,
I mean,
I agree. It's not a total loss. It's not a whole tick down. But I feel there should have been something, a little something that said this was hers. You know, she deserves this.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's again. These are kind of expectations I'm throwing on the film. Not so much something that it should have to live up to. It's just something I would have liked to see more of, because they had an opportunity and it didn't take it. But then we're not talking about a film that really pushes the envelope here. This is just a straightforward action film. It's good at what it does.
Let's see. My biggest problem with the film has nothing to do with editing. It has nothing to do with directing. It has nothing to do with acting. It's the score.
Oh, you know what? I couldn't tell you one thing about the score, except that
that's exactly what
I knew the guy. I saw the name Henry Jackman at the start, and I was like, I know that name, and that was it.
See, I didn't really pay attention, but I was paying attention to the score, and that's one of the reasons why I think the audience or the critics or whatever are having trouble with Jack Reacher. And it's because the score is very, very unengaging. It's actually quite terrible. They don't highlight anything. When you're making a movie, the music is supposed to accentuate specific scenes, add punches to specific scenes, and it's supposed to really, really get the audience engaged. I mean, look at movies like Back to the Future. If you watch Back to the Future with no score, it's going to be a fucking race car doing weird things, crashing into stuff, and it wouldn't make any sense.
It's supposed to complement the visuals and the narrative.
I was under the impression that Jackman composed this for elevators, but then after that was like, I'm too lazy to write a score for this fucking movie. I'm just going to use some of the crap that I've composed over the years and just throw it on.
Previously.
Exactly. I really thought that there was no effort whatsoever put into the music in order to highlight specific scenes, to get emotional payoff. You know, because you can't necessarily always get that through imagery. There are certain scenes in the movie that want to get the audience engaged. And just sometimes you're going to have to get that extra little bit of music to kind of yank the emotion from the viewer. And there were so many missed opportunities within the score for this picture that I thought, Jesus, if I was Zwick, I would have fired that motherfucker for ruining what could have been an interesting part of the movie. It was a terrible fucking score, and I really feel that guy should be ashamed of what he put on display.
Wow!
I am calling for him flat out. That is a terrible fucking score. And it was the one thing that took me out of the movie. I was like, Jesus, who the fuck wrote this? It's terrible music.
I didn't pick up on it at all, and I guess that says something. I guess you're not always supposed to really hear the score; you feel it, I guess. But you are right. I can't think of a moment at all I can think of one moment where the score came in a little too early, and that's the very last shot, and that's about it. To me, the rest, it was some sort of, I don't know, upbeat dun 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 dun, and that was it. It was just a drill.
It was so mild.
Really,
like,
I can't even verify this. It wasn't in my head at the time.
Even during the credits, usually the credits is like it's supposed to finish off the movie in a way where you're like, oh, this is the payoff. You're gonna, I don't know, use whatever. I'm not a composer, but you're supposed to really highlight that we finished this. This is great.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's just like. But anyway,
so there you go. You're calling out Henry Jackman.
Just saying that if you're going to be scoring an action movie, Christ, watch it. Watch the fucking movie while you're composing, and just be like, okay, he's gonna punch the guy in the face right there. Maybe I should use, like, I don't know, something.
A swell, something.
Go back and watch old Charlie Chaplin movies. But that's it. So I'm going to show Jack Reacher Never Go Back as an example of really how shitty music can really ruin a film. It didn't ruin Jack Reacher, by the way. I didn't say that. You can not quote me. But I'm going to show also other examples of music where you can really definitely get something from it. I mean, when I saw the Gold Rush, just not too long ago with the orchestra,
about it on the show.
I was like, Jesus, look at that. Chaplin was very much able to capture an entire scene, and the music itself would be contradictory to what he was actually doing. So you were like, oh, look at that. I'm getting two messages. Now, maybe the messages here is like the composer is just bored. And that's okay. I can understand that maybe he was bored and all that. But come on, man. I'm pretty sure he got a pretty hefty salary for writing the music. So,
probably.
This is Tom Cruise we're talking about. Cruise is not going to just put $20 on the table and say, thank you very much. But anyway,
exactly.
So that was my biggest beef with the movie, was the stupid score. I really, really couldn't take it. The other thing that I want to get back to positives.
Me too.
Now, one of the things that made me laugh the most is just how much Jack Reacher likes the bus. I loved that. I loved how Jack Reacher in the first movie, he gets a cap from a guy who's riding on the bus, who's just like, he's a black man. So the tongue-in-cheek reference to that, they're cops, fuck them. I'm going to help this guy because they're always assholes to me. That was great in the first movie. But in the second one, the fact that he gets on the bus twice he gets on the bus.
There's even a fake out where he almost gets on like a minibus.
Yeah.
But doesn't.
But But it was great. I thought that was
Loves
funny.
buses.
Those buses.
What a weird character choice.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go in the slowest way possible. This thing that makes many stops where it might be really
exactly.
difficult
Where
for me
anybody
to get
chasing
away.
could catch up like in no time.
Yeah. I also liked some of the one-liners, the humor. You know how when Jack Reacher is walking in on Samantha and Turner, where she's training Samantha to disarm the guy, and Reacher says to her, "Yeah, it's a bullshit move. You know, you're not going to be able to do anything with that." And then she just adds the line, "And we'll add a kick in the balls." To that, where you're like,
exactly.
You know, I was
it's
like,
perfect.
that was a perfect one-liner where you're like,
it
you know,
feels kind of. It was so natural from Kobe Smulders. It felt almost like ad-libbed.
Yeah,
I loved it.
So that's you know, and Reacher in the prison as well. You know, I thought that he was kind of funny, just the way that he was approaching. Like whoever, all the guys that he was trying to fight and whatnot. There's nothing, no lines come to mind right now, and I'm sorry for that. I literally got out of the movie.
Scenario.
Yeah, I got out of the movie and I sat down with Lee to talk about it. So
yeah, I did. It was I was very taken by the prison scene. It's a very short segment of the film.
Yeah.
I thought it was just perfectly paced. It's a wonderful thing. A couple of things I wanted positively to talk about. The relationship between Turner and Reacher, I thought was pretty good, because there isn't one as such. I thought that was pretty noble of these kind of films.
Yeah.
For them to sort of shy away from that. That it actually does show that they actually kind of consider a relationship.
Yes.
But they argue so much, and they clearly have like different views on the roles of the military.
Right.
That they just can't see eye to eye. So the film very respectfully drops the attempt, at the very end, it's basically nothing more but a firm handshake.
Yeah.
They're accomplices once again, and they got themselves out of a tight spot, but it wasn't about them being romantic in any way. And that was great, because we didn't need it at all.
Nope.
And it served Turner's character much better, because she's not just another girl who swoons for the guy,
Exactly.
She actually has her own fucking mind on it, and she disagrees with him enough that she's not going to fall for any fucking false romantics. I thought that was a good decision on the part of the screenplay, and something that you don't necessarily expect from these kind of films. So, I thought that was a good choice.
It was an excellent choice. I agree with you. At the end of the movie, you're like, oh, is she going to go in and lean in for a kiss or anything? And
she doesn't.
When she doesn't, I was like, you know what? That's completely in her character to not do that.
Exactly.
And I felt that it wouldn't have felt earned. It would have felt cheap to put a woman in that situation again. But no, I think that on this point, even if some of the things that you pointed out in terms of lazy screenwriting, I think this is a very responsible choice on the screenwriter's part, just because they respect the woman enough to, like you said, to take emotion out of the equation and just act as who she would be in a situation like that.
Another thing, people probably didn't really like the scene too much. The opening scene with that happens in like a diner, and it sort of introduces Jack Reacher and his sort of motives and so on. While it is a bit cheesy and a little bit silly, I thought it was the best tone this movie could have made to start off, because maybe a lot of people haven't seen the first one. Maybe a lot of people don't care.
Right.
Maybe we just want to see this story move along and get to what this story is about, but we don't want to spend too long trying to figure out who Jack Reacher is. Well, good thing the screenwriters have your back. This is narrative shorthand in action.
Yep.
We got a small 5-minute scene, and from it we gain almost everything we need to know about Jack Reacher. He's a loner. He's a vigilante. He doesn't like authority. He could kill if he wants, but chooses not to, chooses to err on the side of justice if it's the better thing to do. He's also broke. He doesn't have a place to live. He's a little reckless. And he's a smartass, There's lots of little tiny bits and pieces that they're throwaway lines, and I get it. It's not smart writing. It's not nuanced in any single way.
Not
We
meant
literally
to
just
be
give
either.
it. Yeah, but that's the point. We get it out of the way because we have an action story to be getting on with, and we need to know who the fuck's our protagonist as soon as we can, and not if it's not a character-driven story, as in if it's not about these characters so much as it is about the action, then let's be honest about it and make it about the action. And this film does focus on the action, so we get set pieces, we get the prison break, we get the bar scene, we get the house, that they explore with the murders in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, this great finale at this Dia de los Muertos, Muertos parade fight that goes on for 15 minutes and kind of follows. It's this big chase up and down multiple layers for this big festival. It's gorgeous and it's great to look at, and it's about the action. It's not really about the characters. And it's good that the film knows what to focus on and doesn't really pretend it's something more than it isn't. So I appreciated that. And I like how the screenwriters made the right choices in those regards.
Yeah. And I'll just add to what you're saying. When you said at least it knows where it wants to go and it's going to be an action movie, I appreciate that anybody coming into these two movies can watch any one of them first and they won't be lost. Yeah. This isn't a sequel. Great. And I thought that was interesting. It was just another chapter in this guy's life. You can watch Never Go Back first, okay? And then you'll be like, oh, Never Go Back to the military.
I'll be honest, I forgot most of the first film. You know, I remember watching it. I remember some scenes, but I don't remember much about the characters. I don't remember much about the setting. It's all kind of a blur to me. So when I went into this, I was kind of thinking, well, maybe this will lose me a bit, you know? Maybe it's not for me because I need to be following it. Fuck no. Absolutely not. I could have watched this. I could have never seen the first one, and I would have been just fine. And I appreciate that.
And it's kind of fun because, look, if we harken back to what we were saying about Terminator 2, Terminator 2 is the one movie that most people will watch. Then they don't even have to watch the first one because...
Don't have to watch the first Terminator. That's exactly
you'll
right.
You'll have a few sequences like in the extended cut where they're going to be like, oh, remember this from the first movie? Or
callbacks.
Exactly, you know? But in this one, in Jack Reacher Never Go Back, you don't necessarily have to have seen the first one. It doesn't matter, you know? And I don't think that that's a bad thing, that it doesn't matter. These movies, to me, I'll say that I prefer the first one, just because at least the music is better. But this one is on equal footing. I had a great time watching this movie. Even though, like, I'm getting to what I want to talk about in terms of Tom Cruise, I really agree with everything you just said. It doesn't necessarily have to be that complicated. It's fine the way it is. And the fact that you said, you know, there is a bit of lazy screenwriting, but at least it's smart enough to know what it is.
But yes, let's get to Cruise.
I felt a little emotional at the end of Jack Reacher Never Go Back because when Cruise was talking to Colby Smulders at the end of the movie, when Reacher is talking to Turner, Zwick uses close-ups very well to show some sort of emotional connection. Those emotions, I think, were transferred onto me when I was watching Tom Cruise saying that he was going to be leaving and doing his own thing, and he still has her number, and he might call, he might not come back or whatever. And then he goes to bring his daughter, or supposed daughter, I'll say, Samantha, to school, and that doesn't necessarily pan out either. But there was a big hug scene between those two characters that I really felt was interesting. I felt it was earned. They had gone through a lot together. And just having Tom Cruise walk off, like we were talking about this idea of a Western, you know, he is the typical cowboy that is going to walk into a city and then walk out of the city once his job is done. But Tom Cruise walking off into the sunset started speaking to me on a different level. I feel that with this movie, even though we do have a Mission Impossible that's coming out eventually, he's going on to do monster movies, I think, with Universal as well. He's got a big contract there.
That's right.
This is one of the last movies where I felt Cruise was slowly starting to say goodbye to the action genre.
Yeah.
Cruise walking off into the sunset got me a little bit. I was like, whoa, okay, there's an image here that's speaking to me in a way that I don't know if it was intended. But it was a very romantic image of this action hero, this guy that we've been watching for the better part of, 30 years now on the screen?
Yeah, crazy. It's insane, definitely.
Right? And even if he finishes off the action movies, this won't be his last one, obviously, but he's nearing the end. And it started to show, when I was watching Cruise, it started to show, I was like, okay, there's that point where we won't be able to see him do this anymore. And I started feeling it. With Jack Reacher Never Go Back, it wasn't a bad feeling. I actually enjoyed the feeling. But at the same time, I felt kind of happy. It was bittersweet. You know, I can't really explain it, but I mean, it gave me the impression that I should kind of get up and clap, which is a weird thing. I was like, you know, it was a weird feeling, you know, to see Cruise go off. And I was looking at him, and he is 54 years old. It's starting to show. He looks a little more weathered, you know. He's still in great shape, you know, and he's showing it in the movie. But I couldn't help but feel that last shot with the thumb up in the air, that was him hitchhiking a ride onto the next thing, but it was also a thumbs up thank you to the audience.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I felt a little weird at the end of the movie.
I didn't see it that way, but on reflection, I found that thumb up and that smile was so typical Tom Cruise that like the film stopped just a couple of minutes before, and we just seen Tom Cruise and it was kind of like a flashback to your like career before your eyes as he like does his stupid big goofy smile and he puts his thumb up, and you're kind of like, yeah, we're right back in like the 80s, the height of Tom Cruise. This is real comfortable material, real comfortable ground here. But you're right, there is that sort of bittersweet nature to it. The man's not going to be doing this for the rest of his life. Well, he could try. He could certainly go for it. But
Harrison Ford.
We probably got 5-10 minutes of buff running Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
To go before that just isn't sustainable anymore. Either he dies of a heart attack or he tunes it out.
Yeah.
So we, it's kind of something we kind of have to savor a little, and even in the little goofy little films that nobody needs to see, like Jack Reacher Never Go Back. It's just great to see that the man still committed himself this far.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And I get that. There is something really bittersweet in saying, yes, it's perfect. I'm moving on slowly but surely. Thanks for continuing to support me. It's really touching.
That's a great way to put it. That's how I felt.
And that's just great. I think that's a really sweet way to think of this finale, because it's not the end, but it is getting there.
Exactly.
That's just being realistic.
I felt that's what it was. It didn't even feel like it was Jack Reacher at that point. I felt it was Tom.
The character was left behind.
Yeah, I felt it was
Jack
Tom
Reacher
Cruise.
Doesn't do goofy smiles. Put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. There was no exact. Very good, yeah. I found myself getting a little bit emotional, not to cool. It felt like a thank you. Thank you for sticking through this with me. It felt like, he just kind of let the character go for a minute and said, this is cool. Thank you.
It's very old action star. It's very John Wayne, as you were saying.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's something very Western in that sort of, put it this way, people go to these films, they don't go to see Jack Reacher, they go to see Tom Cruise.
That's what I did.
So, that's exactly. In that sense, you're allowed to continue to just see Tom Cruise. If that's what you want to see. You can see it as he tries to play characters. Most people know that he's not so committed in this that we're really seeing a whole detachment from who Tom Cruise is.
Right.
There's always a lot of him there, and a little twist here and there to differentiate the various faces he adorns, the various masks. So to say that this finale feels like it's more to do with Cruise than it is to Reacher feels pretty apt.
Okay.
Because that's what people see in him. That's what people see these films for. So it makes sense.
Good. And on that note, I think that pretty much sums up how I felt about it. I recommend the movie.
Score?
I'll give it a... You know what? I gave Jason Bourne 3.5 on 5, and I will keep that for Jack Reacher Never Go Back. It's entertaining. In my opinion, it's
super fair.
An entertaining movie. It has giant gaping flaws, but you know what? I don't care. I felt that those flaws kind of gave it that charm. Like I said, never underestimate the charm of a seedy motel. And the motel I visited was called Jack Reacher Never Go Back, and I admired it for the charm it had. It wasn't trying to be anything more than it was, and it succeeded very, very much in doing so. So I recommend it. 3.5 on 5 is my score. See it in the movie. See it on the biggest fucking screen you can. It'll be great.
Absolutely. It's something I said I would recommend to people. If you're just sitting around, you want to do something, but you want to have something in the background, it's not a film you have to watch to enjoy, There's a lot. You can glance at it. It could be a Netflix.
Yep.
If you don't want to go pay to see it in the theater, just don't. You don't have to. It makes a good Father's Day present. I said that in my review. It's catered to that kind of audience.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be a solid purchase.
My dad's gonna love this
gonna
movie.
like. Exactly. So is mine. And it's great for that. I really enjoyed it. I kind of did keep that in mind about Jason Bourne, like you just did. I give it a B, which is the exact same score I give Jason Bourne. It's not the same film. It's not really even the same feeling of an action movie.
Oh no, definitely.
But I feel it's just as flawed, just as competent. And if I had to watch one or the other, I would probably edge far closer to Jack Reacher, just for a fun, light time.
Yep.
than I would. Jason Bourne's a little more sit down, think about it, kind of visually assault you kind of thing, as we were talking earlier.
Well,
yeah, you get me.
It's a wannabe thinker.
So, super fun film. Totally recommend in its own terms. Make of it what you will. Just don't go too hard on it. Nobody needs to really shit on this film. It's nowhere near as bad as people are making it out to be. Not even close. They're really proper 0% and shit like that. That's ridiculous. It's really just, it is at best mediocre. At worst mediocre.
At worst, okay, yeah, but I mean...
Yeah.
I mean, I can see a bunch of people loving this movie, just being like, this was a fun fucking movie. And it didn't need to be anything more than fun, and I had a good time. Except for the fucking score,
exactly.
I'm fine.
Great.
All right.
So we can call this an episode.
Good. That does it for us this week on Atlantic Screen Connection with Jason and Lee. How did you guys find Jack Reacher Never Go Back? We know a few people that really hated that, but that's okay. We love them anyway. You guys can reach me anytime on Twitter at film_faculty. Be sure to check out the website, Film Faculty. We have a new writer with us again. I'm going to start writing again soon. I promise.
Lying.
We have Mark Putley. I'm not lying. I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I just have to find the right moment to get it out. Be patient. I'm doing my best. Things are coming. And so, as I said, you can reach me on Film Faculty, film_faculty on Twitter again, and be sure to shout, what did you guys think of Jack Reacher? So that's it. I'm going to pass this over to Lee, see what he can do.
You can find me on bigpicturereviews.co.uk. It's the website I have of Shane, Maria, and Darren. We post reviews for modern films 2016. Also, you can get me on Twitter, pretty active there. You can send me messages and your own reviews if you want, at bigpicreviews. Happy to read them. I really enjoy being a part of the community that have so warmly accepted us into their arms. So again, absolutely super happy with how the show is going. Everything's going great. So thank you for your continued support. It's been incredible. It's been great.
Oh yeah, we love you guys. Thank you so much for sharing all of the, interacting with us on Twitter is just, yeah. So that's it for us this week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.